Okay, my name is Wendy Long. I am one of the organizers of the Coral Gables PTSA virtual candidate forum. The PTSA stands for Parent Teacher Student Association. And there are three organizations parent teacher organizations who are sponsoring tonight. Coral Gables Senior High PTSA, and their president, Jacqueline Kennedy, is here. Ponce de Leon Middle School PTSA is another sponsor, and their president, Suzette Cleary, is also with us. And GW Carver Elementary School PTA is another sponsor, and their president, Estelle Lockhart, is with us. And Gables Insider is also with us, and Ariel Fernandez is representing them. So Jackie and Suzette and Estelle, if you would like to say anything, you can unmute yourselves for a moment.
Sorry.
Hello.
I think
That's fine.
Go ahead. Hi, Jackie.
Hey, how are you? How are you? This is such a wonderful presence here tonight. This is my last year at Coral Gables Senior High School. I have been so proud to have served as president for the last 2 years. This year, actually, Christina Jackson is serving as president. She is currently at a Miami-Dade public school meeting, PTSA. We're taking a very important vote on sustainability. But thank you so much for all participating, and thank you so much, Wendy and Joseph and Sam.
Thank you, Jackie. Estelle.
Hi, Estelle Lockhart, Carver Elementary PTA. Just thank you to everyone for coming out, and we're excited to hear from our kids and just teach the next generation about engaging in local politics. Thank you for being here.
Hi, my name is Suzette Cleary, president of the Ponce Middle School PTSA, and I also want to thank everyone for joining this event and for participating. And I especially want to thank all the students of our wonderful Coral Gables schools for participating and representing our amazing schools tonight. So thank you.
Thank you to all three of you. Just to clarify, PTAs cannot support or endorse political candidates in any way, but they are encouraged to advocate for informed voting. And our intention this evening is to provide an opportunity for voters to get to know the candidates and their platforms in a neutral environment. So we're really happy to have you here. Thank you. Now I would like to introduce you to our moderator. Many thanks to Mr. Sam Joseph, who is going to moderate this evening's forum. I'd like to tell you just a little bit about him. As a South Florida native, Mr. Joseph has more than 20 years of experience leading community organizing with a focus on advocacy, education, and equity. Prior to establishing the Urban Core Community Coalition in 2019, he served as director of advocacy for BHA for several years, leading quality of life initiatives, working closely with the board and local government. For nearly the past decade, he has chaired or co-chaired Coral Gables Education Committee, dedicated to enhancing equity and quality in schools in the municipality's neighborhoods. Mr. Joseph has been dedicated to the South Florida community, education, and youth development for nearly his entire professional career. He was immersed in museums during the first half of his career, including those in South Florida dedicated to history, science, and children. He was involved in one of the museum field's first major national youth development programs, Youth Alive, a program for at-risk adolescents in science museums, for which he served on the national board in many capacities, including president. Mr. Joseph remains a board member of Broward County's Kids Voting, and he is the proud recipient of several awards and accolades, including the Haitian Heritage Museum's Cultural Achiever Award and the Volunteer of the Year Award from the YMCA of Broward County. So as you see, he is very well qualified to serve as our moderator this evening, and we consider ourselves very fortunate to have him. So thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, okay, I think I need to make, Sam, do I need to make you a panelist?
No, I think you're all right. I think folks should be
Okay.
able to see and hear me. Thank you so much, Wendy.
Okay, thank you.
Well, you make me blush, if that were possible, with all that you read off there. But,
Thank
it
you.
means that I'm really, really old. That's why all the grays, by the way, doing too much. I want to first of all, thank the PTSAs and PTA groups for putting together this, what is an unprecedented event. And it is wonderful to see our schools involved in the civic process. And I certainly want to thank especially our schools that went above and beyond and used this as a learning occasion for our students about how government works and getting involved. And I hope and look forward to this being a routine event now. So kudos to you guys at the PTSA. We did want to do a couple pieces of housekeeping. First of all, Ponce Middle School, I wanted to announce to you guys, was awarded the 2020 Merit School of Distinction Award and the 2020 Certified Magnet Exemplary School Award by the Magnet Schools of America. It's also Ponce's PTSA this past summer was one of 3 schools in Miami-Dade County to win the National PTA COVID Relief Grant, which provided weekend food bags to vulnerable students. The PTAs and the PTSAs at our public schools are doing an unbelievable job to make sure that all of our students have everything they need for the best high quality access to education. And so anything that you or I can do to help support our PTAs and PTSAs, please do. Even if you don't have a child in the school, your support makes a difference. I also wanted to recognize the board members at Coral Gables Senior High School's PTSA. And it's remarkable how few people it takes to do so much. But you heard about Dr. Christina Jackson, the principal, Jackie Rose Kellogg, who's vice president and past president, Dr. Tracy Devine Guzman, the recording secretary, Mariana Dominguez Hardy, the VP of membership, and Margaret Chippy, corresponding secretary in communications. It takes a lot of people and a lot of energy, talent, and resources in order to make our kids successful, and we appreciate all that you do. The last housekeeping item I have to do is there was an announcement that was sent out that listed my vice chairship on the City School and Communities Relation Committee as a title for this event. I just want to make sure that we understand this is not an officially sanctioned City of Coral Gables event. I am here more in the capacity of the father of a school-age child at Coral Gables Preparatory Academy, who, like you, is very interested in making sure that my city beautiful remains that way, and want to put people in office who are going to assure that happens. But this has nothing to do with my work on the committee. But I will say this, I hope that after you leave here today, everyone will consider service on a city board or committee to really make a difference in your community. It doesn't stop at voting. It means us getting our hands dirty and really doing the grassroots work to get the government that we need, want, and deserve. So without further ado, I want to welcome you and thank the candidates and all of the voters watching. We hope you leave better informed this evening about who you want to represent you in the Coral Gables city government. Just a reminder, the elections are scheduled for Tuesday, April 13th, and we have 3 seats that are open, a very rare occurrence here in the city of Coral Gables. Obviously, we're 2 Coral Gables City Commission seats and a seat for our mayor. And so tonight, those are the candidates who we'll be speaking to, folks who are interested in filling those seats. The candidates tonight have been apprised of the ground rules, but I'll repeat them here for the benefit of the audience. The event will be presented in 4 segments. First, we'll hear from Group 2 City Commission candidates. Then we'll talk to Group 3 City Commission candidates. Next, we'll have questions for our 3 mayoral candidates. And then we'll round out the evening with a Q&A from the audience in which all the candidates are welcome to participate in. Candidates within each segment will answer the same questions. Each candidate will have 1 minute for each answer. I will keep time. Families, including children, are in attendance this evening, and we encourage it. So we are asking to please be respectful in your remarks, and obviously we are looking for professional and collegial atmosphere as much as we can get. Coral Gables voters have expressed their top concerns in this election are development, transportation, and transparency. We will ask questions on these topics and others this evening, but through the lens of families and education. The questions have been formulated by the PTSAs and from submissions from the community. The candidates have been advised of the general topic areas that we'll be talking about tonight, but they have not received the specific questions. Audience members, if you would like to ask a question or submit a question for candidates, please type it in the Q&A section. And again, when we move into the last round of Q&A, we'll make sure to try to add it. I will be very honest with you. We're not going to have time for all questions this evening. We'll do our best to get as many of them in as we can. We're going to ask the candidates that if you don't need your full 1 minute to answer, be as brief and concise as you can so we can get as many questions in as we can. And last but not least, the forum is being recorded. A copy of it will be made available on the Gables Insider Facebook page, and look for emails on that. So without further ado, we'll start with the candidates for Coral Gable Commission seat Group 2. Wendy, do we have everybody here for that group?
Excuse me, we do. Javier Baños, you had sent me a message that I just saw, but he's in Group 3, so it's okay. I can
Okay.
work on getting him. Thank you.
So I would like to, we'll start with the groups from candidate 2 and present it in alphabetical order. And I'll rotate the questions after we get started. We have Rhonda Anderson, Tanya Cruz Jimenez, Alexander Hack, Myra Jolie, Claudia Miro, and Jose Valdez Fowley, I saw. Did I not?
Yes.
Okay. Glad to have you here, sir.
Yeah. Sorry.
So, the first question this evening, I would like to actually have one of our guest questioners ask. I have a first grader from George Washington Carver Elementary School, Soraya Pantano, who has a question for the first question of the night. Soraya, are you here?
Hello. Yes.
The floor is yours, Soraya. And oh, by the way, we'll start with Miss Anderson to answer.
Good evening, candidates. How could you help schools? Thank you.
Miss Anderson,
There we go.
Well, one of the major ways that we can help schools is to make sure you ride the school safely. We're all pretty familiar with the crosswalk situation across from GW Carver Elementary School, and that presents enormous problems. Our state has a huge problem with safety for pedestrians overall, and that particular crosswalk is an example of something that with notice could have been better planned. And my purpose for running too is to make sure everyone receives notice so that we can design better crosswalks, better streets, much safer for you to be able to get to school. as well, safely and alive. There's many development issues. I'm not going to go into all of those at this time because I know that we have very limited amount of time here. But in addition to the police, we need to have ways to slow down the traffic at your crosswalk and be able to get you there safely on a normal basis, have a safe environment for you to learn in, where you have all the accoutrements that you need to be, all the tools that you need to learn. And that's the timer, right?
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. By the way, I should have, and let me mention this to candidates. Candidates, you will have 1 minute to respond. You will hear, and you probably heard it, the attention signal. Once your 1 minute is up, you'll have 10 seconds to kind of wrap it up, 10 to 20 seconds, and then if we need to, we'll cut the mic, but I hope we won't need to go there. So next, Ms. Tanya Cruz Jimenez. How could you
So,
help?
let me just begin by apologize. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I want to begin by apologizing for the background noise. I am in the middle of a fundraiser, so I ran out and I've been trying to find a space. So this is the best I can do. So I hope my minute doesn't start. Now, as far as safety, both my kids and Sam, go to Coral Gables Prep. So I am very invested in our local schools. First and foremost, we need to be working with the parents and we need to be working with our school board to ensure that we have a plan. One of the horrible things that happened earlier was with Wawa. There was a settlement negotiation, a settlement that was discussed with Coral Gables and the county and the foundation that the parents and the parents of Carver and the school board member were not made aware of. And so as on a going forward basis, we need to make sure that there is communication with school administration, with our school board and with parents to ensure that we know what is happening around our schools. Again, police presence, traffic, that is of the utmost importance, as well as our funding. As funds are being diverted to charter schools, we need to ensure that we have the ability to recruit and to maintain the best teachers here, particularly in our local schools, so that we have a generation that can go out and prosper and hopefully stay within our own community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz Jimenez. Mr. Hack.
Good evening, and thank you to the PTAs, PTSAs, and Gables Insider for hosting this event. The behavior of the City Commission and how it conducted itself regarding the Wawa gas station is an example of much needed transparency and accountability on our elected officials. I've been a resident my entire life and have gone to school locally. I went to St. Teresa Catholic School and the University of Miami. Education plays an important role in the development of our children and making sure these schools are providing the best. And with the current situation of remote learning and the emergence of a post-COVID world, will require the Commission to think creatively and partner effectively with the schools, with the counties, and with the parents. And safety, of course, as my colleagues have mentioned, is of the utmost importance. And it is imperative that the children of Coral Gables go to school safely, learn safely, and that is where I stand as a candidate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hack. Ms. Jolie?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm going to answer this question as if I'm speaking with the person who asked me the question. And I hope and I want her to be engaged, and she knows when she looks at me, the sun is shining on the horizon of J.W. Carver, which means I will drive by J.W. Carver to make sure those big tanks that were right on the scene of her school when she came out are not there anymore. And they are not there anymore, not just to keep the parents quiet while they do their negotiations. I will make sure my 6-year-old friend, I will make sure they are not going to have all those sugary, bad food that will make you more acting up, and you will not be able to concentrate in your classroom and in your classes. And I make sure No bad guys will be crumbling around in a Wawa gas station. And I will make sure us adults, we respect the parents of any first grader
Thank
at
you, Ms.
J.W.
Jolie.
Carver. And I will make sure as the commissioner that none of us will be getting money over your interest as a child who wants to go home and go to school safe.
Thank you, Ms. Jolie. Ms. Miro?
Hi, thank you, everybody. Good evening. Thank you for being here. Soraya, thank you for your question. I appreciate that. I'm a single mom of a 12-year-old boy who was once in the first grade. It seems just like the other day. So your question is, how do we help schools? And so I think that as commissioners, we have to be good partners. So in government, the commissioners are over the city, and over the school is a school board member. So I would work hand in hand with the area school board member, which is Maritere Rojas, to make sure that we are aware of all the things that are going around that are going to affect the school, and pretty much just stay in my lane and say, well, how can we help? And that includes traffic. After you get out of school, if you're going to be crossing the street, I want to make sure that there's no cut through traffic, that we have enough police officers there if we need to curtail that or help you cross. We want to make sure that the school police officers are there, and that we're making sure that there aren't any bad people around selling drugs or trying to to scare any of the children. Just make sure that it's a safe environment so that you'll feel good about going to school and leaving school every day and looking forward to learning. I appreciate your question, and I look forward to hearing some more of the questions, especially from our young audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miro. And last but not least, Mr. Valdez-Fali.
I will talk to Soraya directly. Soraya, I think you're a great example of our future leaders. I am a graduate of Coral Gables High School. I graduated 50 years ago, which explains my longevity in Coral Gables. I think I established a successful career with community involvement. And I think it is very good for you, and what you're doing is wonderful. And I commend your teachers and your PTA for getting you involved, because you are our future, and you need to see that, someday you might be here answering a younger Soraya's questions. And I think you should be very proud of, your teachers and everything you're doing. And please continue with involvement and get involved in the community, your community of your school. And I want to thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next question. Public education is not specifically within the purview of city government. Do you believe that city commissioners can or should advocate for public schools and the students who attend them? Why or why not? And let's start with Mr. Hack.
I believe in cooperation with the school board and with county officials. And while it isn't traditionally the realm of city governments to deal in the issues of public education, I do believe that it has to start somewhere. And we need to be leading by example. We need to be at the forefront of pursuing and advocating for public education. I think that public education is getting deregulated and a lot more funds are being put towards charter schools. And as a result, public education is suffering. And I think that if more city governments banded together and worked with county officials and school board officials, but at that point, will public education be at its best?
Thank you. Julie?
Yes. When it comes to education, We have to delineate what is the education that our children are getting in school. And as a commissioner, if we have schools, high schools and elementary schools that are within our boundaries, we should not just turn a blind eye when we see that the level of education and the quality of the education is being diminished and is being it's been destroyed to the point that parents have no say on what is taught to their children. I will make sure we have programs that will teach children as young as 6 years old, yes, what their government is about, what is America, and what America stands for. Because for a 6-year-old, their whole world is their home, mom and dad, and their friends. But they want to know, and they have to know what happens in the little circle if we, the adults that are in the community and in the positions of leadership, don't give the parents the authority and the respect they deserve, knowing that families are the cornerstone of any civilized and solid society. So
Thank
that
you.
would be my first line of business.
Thank you, Ms. Jolie. Ms. Miro?
Hi, would you please repeat the question?
Yes, of course. Public education is not specifically within the purview of city government. Do you believe that city commissioners can or should advocate for public schools and the students who attend them? Why or why not?
Right, thank you. While it may not be in the purview of the city commission, we can certainly be good community partners. And by being a good community partner, you have to take into consideration all the stakeholders, which the school is one of them. And so, like we had been talking about the Wawa issue, the minute that project changed from being a community center to being a gas station, I think that was going to be the point where we needed to alert and be good community partners and alert the school system of what was going on. Because by the time that the community found out that there had been a change, basically all the I's had been dotted, all the T's had been crossed, and there was nothing that the community could do. There was nothing they could do but voice their frustration. So I think that absolutely we should all work together because that is what community is after all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miro. Ms. Valdez, Mr. Valdez-Pali?
I'm a firm believer in public education. I had one. I think the city of Coral Gables needs to be involved to make sure there's enough seats at the table for all our residents and our resident children in the schools that we have in our city. I think our schools are excellent with excellent teachers. And I think the commission needs to make sure that there are enough places in those schools for the children of Coral Gables so that we can have them go to our schools in our community. I also think the commission needs to also be involved in making sure that the teachers are being paid properly, even though it is not the realm of the commission, but I think the commission needs to have an eye on exactly what is going on with the schools, the teachers, and making sure that the kids can go to these schools.
So, Ms. Anderson?
Thank you. Both of my young girls went to G.W. Carver Elementary School, fantastic school, and a rich experience they got there, and did the public school routine all the way through. The role of government and the role of the commission can be very important for a number of issues. Aside from the crosswalk and safety issue there and a lack of notice to the parents, we also have important issues that happen sometimes where the police need to be present. Some tragic events where, gun violence might be an issue. We need to be there to help. We can help the children make sure they have the school supplies and the necessary meals when there's issues that affect their health, such as the teachers making sure they have their vaccines in place. We have a community effort going on right now, thanks to our current commission, with getting folks vaccinated. So for our future leaders of our country or in our city, I think we need to support our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Ms. Cruz Jimenez? Ms. Cruz Jimenez?
Also, I hope that I can say that first and foremost, as a community and as a society, we should always be striving to ensure that our children are educated, because it goes to the very core of our society. Educated children means educated citizens participate in our democracy and in our communities. And so absolutely we should take, as commissioners and as parents and as everyone, a very serious role in the education of our children, because it determines
Ms. Cruz Jimenez, we're losing you. Are you there? I guess we've lost her. I'm going to go on to our next question, and this will be given by another student. We have, it's another first grader from George Washington Carver Elementary School. And so I'm gonna have her come on, if she's on. Is our first grader?
Say hi.
Hi.
Got it?
Oh, there we go. The floor is yours.
Good evening. I am 7 years old and I'm a student at George Washington Carver Elementary. My question for this group of commissioners is, what benefits will Wawa station being built across from our elementary school bring to us children? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to repeat your question because you went out a little bit. The question was, what benefits will the Wawa gas station being built across from our school bring to us children? And let's start with Mr. Jose Valdez-Fowler.
Well, the Wawa station the money was transferred from the county to the community organization, and the community organization struck a deal with Wawa to be able to rent the property. Hopefully the funds that are being generated from that will go back into the community to improve the community. The community group did that. I don't think Wawa will add anything to the school. I think it's detrimental. But unfortunately it is done, and I don't know how it can be reversed. And hopefully the money that will go into the community, they will try to invest to help Carver and help the area in improving it.
Thank you. Next, let's have Ms. Mira.
Yes, thank you. So to answer your question, I think that I think there's been a lot of controversy with the Wawa gas station, but we are where we are. We have it there, and we're going to have to, like I mentioned before, we still have to try to be good community partners. So at this point, try and engage Wawa. They are there. We cannot ignore them, and see how it is that they can help and what they can help. Maybe they can help provide water for a school field day. Maybe they can help, at a rally, make signs. There's so many things that they can come and help any school projects. Let's say that that your school wants to plant trees. Maybe they can donate the soil. Maybe they can donate the seeds. There's so many ways that we can now that we have them as neighbors, try to engage them so that we can turn a situation that has been difficult into a situation that is more positive. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cruz Jimenez? Are you there, Ms. Cruz Jimenez?
As a starting point, that land was supposed to be meant for Bahamian individuals, okay, for the Gables, for the Black Gables, and they did not build the affordable housing that they were supposed to build, and so I have a problem with that. Of course, that changed over time, many years, But with that said, they are there now. But the question is there something that we can negotiate? My understanding is they haven't broke ground yet. You're not going to, as a lawyer, I'm going to tell you, you're not going to undo a settlement. It's very unlikely. But is there something that we can do to ensure that our kids are safe, that there's less alcohol, less cigarettes, less toxins, to the extent that you can with a gas station, of course. And then let's learn from this lesson. Let's ensure that this.
Oh, I guess we lost her again. Let's go to Mr. Hack.
I agree with my colleagues that the money that will go from the Wawa should naturally go back into the utilities of the city, and however that the Wawa can contribute to the school would be amazing. But how this gas station was funded shows that we need some type of transparency and accountability on the city commission, and that any future projects need to be need to have the public approval first, and that all of this controversy and all of these deals that were done in secret is a really unhealthy habit that can develop very quickly.
Thank you. Ms. Jolie?
Thank you. The question was, what will the Wawa gas station bring to the children at J.W. Carver Elementary? And the answer is absolutely nothing. Nothing good. No now, not ever. If my little friend, 7-year-old, thinks that we adults are telling you the truth, we are not. It will bring nothing good to you children having a gas station, unless you tell me that you're gonna go to school at 6 years old, 7 years old in a Lamborghini. You have nothing to do with the Wawa 300 feet from your school, and that is across the street. And not counting that we adults are cutting corners to convince you, 7-year-old first grader, that something good we're gonna find from it. My son is 16 years old. When he was your age, 7 years old, we were going to go to Dominican Republic, and one of his cousins didn't have a passport, an American passport. So he told, you know what he told the little cousin? Don't worry, Aleni, for my mom, nothing is impossible. Therefore, stopping a Wawa gas station that haven't even had a building there is not impossible, my dear 7-year-old, because we adults know that anything is possible in this world, and we will stop a Wawa gas station, and we're gonna place an arboretum there. Yes, if something can be done to tell the 7-year-old that we adults can do it, we will be doing that, because we have the power to stop it, and we will, my friend, we will.
Thank you, Joey. Ms. Anderson?
Thank you for asking that question. Very important question. I wish I could tell you I could make a gas station go away, because that would not have been my choice of what should go there. And quite frankly, the commission did not vote on it. But what I can do or try to do for you all is promise you that I will do what I've done on other projects. That is try to make that street safer. I understand how dangerous it is. My sister was run over by a truck. I'm deeply concerned that you children, being shorter in stature, not only crossing the street, but once you get on the other side of the street, going across those driveways while the trucks are rumbling through and busy trying to get into the gas station and out of the gas station, that you'll become a victim. A lot needs to be done to cure this situation. An additional crosswalk needs to be placed in a safe area. Rumble strips can be put in, and then there's the issue of the food. So thank you for asking the question. It's excellent.
Thank you. Thank you. Next question. This is a development question, and we'll start out with Ms. Miro. Developers continue to build taller, bigger buildings in our city. What impact do you foresee this having on our public schools, especially considering that several of these schools are already at or above capacity?
One of the reasons I decided to run for office was because I started seeing these big monster-sized buildings popping up all over Coral Gables, and that brought several concerns. First of all, with the quality of life, the traffic that is going to be generated when those buildings begin to populate along Ponce de Leon and along US 1, it's going to be gridlock. Not only that, but that's also going to pose a problem for the families that are moving in the school capacity. Are we ready? Do we have enough space for those children? What are we doing to make sure that we're ready? The other concern is, so those buildings are already there. So we just can't come here and complain and say, well, I don't like this and I don't like that, and this is a problem. We have to start thinking about solutions. My concern there is public safety. If there were to be a fire inside one of these buildings, we do not have enough firemen, enough staff to go and deal with that fire. If there's an issue at a school while there's a building fire going on, will we have enough firemen or police to attend both and to keep both the people in the fire or the school and the officers or the firefighters responding safe? So these are some of the problems that cross my mind when we think about, the high density that's coming to Coral Gables. And as commissioner, I vow to always ask what the density is going to be, how it's going to affect us, how it's going to affect our traffic.
Thank you. Mr. Valdez-Fowley?
Well, I think the problem with the overbuilding is a zoning problem and following the codes. I think the comments that have been taken about the children in the schools, I think that's a great point that we need to have consideration of, are these buildings going to have children that will be going to the schools, and do we have capacity for them? Which goes back to my original point before when I said we need to make sure that there's seats, in these schools for the children that are residing in the city. I think that's extremely important that these schools are able to handle it. It's not just, there's many parts of when you put up a building, do you have the fire, do you have the police, do you have the capacity for everything? And I think the schools need to be included in that. Very much so.
Excellent. Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
Ask you to repeat the question because my connection was a little
off. Of course. Developers continue to build taller, bigger buildings in our city. What impact do you foresee this having on our public schools, especially considering that several of these schools are already at or above capacity?
It's an excellent question. We do have some concurrency requirements, but I don't believe that this is given the depth of examination that the PTA and the school board itself should weigh in on as far as the amount of density and the type of facility that's being put in. If you're putting in an ALF, we're not going to be impacting the need for the schools, but if you're putting in a multi-family building or apartment units or anything that someone that's not in an ALF would live in, we're certainly impacting the demand on the schools, the seating space, the safety of the children, and the transportation routes that we need to get them there. There have been many times I've seen where, where these children are coming from and what school they need to get to is not even remotely a consideration for the building going in. So excellent question, and I hand it to you all for doing such a wonderful job on this forum tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ms. Cruz Jimenez?
My apologies because I keep getting dropped off. As a starting point, do we have the capacity for the children in our existing schools now that all of these new developments are coming up? And I know a lot of them are catering toward retirees, but at the same time, I think a number of them are actually catering to new families. And so do we have the infrastructure? And that's one of my big things, infrastructure. On another note, as I talk to a lot of residents, and I have this in my own family, do we have the right people with the right training to deal with the number of children that have special needs, that are on the spectrum, that have some other special need? And what I'm finding from a number of parents that I'm speaking to is that, in fact, with a small exception, a lot of our schools are not equipped to handle these types of students. And I think we all know that this is an issue that has been increasing over the past few years, whether it's because of diagnosis or other reasons, but we need to, one, have the infrastructure. We need to be able to have the schools for these new children to come in so that our classroom not overrun and that we have a reasonable teacher ratio. But beyond that, with those children that have issues, we need to make sure that we have the proper staffing to deal with them. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Mr. Hack?
There we go. One problem that I see regarding the development when it comes to schools and our children in Coral Gables is traffic. We've been talking extensively about traffic in this forum, and all the cut through traffic that goes into the neighborhoods poses a danger. Someone will get hurt, whether that's a child or an adult. That cutaway traffic poses a safety hazard. And I think that is where I stand as a candidate. I am for balanced development. How the city has been handling itself is in the wrong direction. We need to be judicious of what we do with the space and how we fill that space, because how our actions have consequences, and the consequences of all of this wanton development is all of this traffic that's getting diverted into our city and posing these safety hazards on our residents. I as well agree with my colleagues in terms of that we need the proper infrastructure in order to allow, as Mr. Valdez-Fali said, we need to make sure that everyone has a seat at this table, and it is the responsibility of the City Commission to do everything in its power to make sure that the necessary funds, infrastructure, and apparatus are available for our children to have in their schools.
Thank you, Mr. Hack. And last but not least, Ms. Jolie.
Yes, I am a member of the ESAC. The ESAC is the Educational Excellent School Counselor. And what we do is try to come up with ideas as teachers, as parents, as students, and the faculty. And there is also a PTA member. We try to come up with real ideas, not just talking ideas, because we're talking about our children. So right now, we have a problem with the development. We see the plaza. The plaza is a $410 million project. It's there. It's nothing we can do because it's there. But we have a Wawa that is not there. But we're telling our children there is nothing we can do, even though the Wawa is not there. I have an idea, concrete idea. Let's take the 1% of the whole $410 million that the plaza utilized for cost and expenses, so whatever, to build it. And that 1%, instead of putting it in art and public places, we're gonna give it to Carver Elementary for, just as the sorry talking that from us, the commissioners, of you know how bad we feel because we are not able to stop the Wawa. The 1% that the plaza is putting into the art and public places, we're gonna put it in some place that is really gonna make it different. We're gonna give Carver Elementary $4 million for their trouble. How's that for sight? Who's with me?
I love it. Thank you, Ms. Jolie. All right, last question for this group, and again, we're gonna have a guest questioner. I have Goya Roman, who's a third grader from GW Carver Elementary School. will be asking. Goya, are you here?
Yes.
The floor is yours.
Good evening, candidates. What will you do to improve the air pollution in Miami?
Actually, I know Goya it's a two-part question. What will you do to improve the air quality in Miami? Will you support planting more trees in Coral Gables? So let's start with Ms. Anderson.
Hello, Goya. I love your question. I started planting trees when I was about 9 or 10 years old, and I love trees. I'm still planting trees as of today at 60. So yes, I fully support planting lots of trees. In addition, we need to transition off of electric onto electric vehicles, have more charge stations. Right now, only 2% have of our, 2% of the parking capacity, and our parking garages for new buildings are required to have a charge cord on them, and only 1% has a plug available where you can get power. In 14 years, by the time you're out of school, the only thing you can buy is an electric vehicle, and you're not going to have enough places to plug it in. So I fully support aggressively expanding the number of places where we have a power outlet that we can plug our cars in, so that when you grow up, you can buy one of those cars and not be polluting the air on the streets and the sidewalks and the parking garages. So thank you for that wonderful, wonderful question. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Ms. Cruz Jimenez?
Well, an important part of my platform is actually that we need to plant more trees so that we can be walking through the streets, especially during the summer months, and have some shade. I live on Menorca, and when I'm walking down my street in the North Gables, it's so nice and cool with the shade and the trees. The moment that I cross Lejeune and I get into Miracle Mile, it is so much hotter. It's like 10 degrees hotter. So absolutely, we need to plant more trees to make it better for us to walk. Beyond that, another important part of my platform has been alternate forms of transportation. Biking, the freebie, expanding the trolley, again, walking, everything. Today, when I was canvassing, I wasn't doing it walking. I was actually doing it on my tandem bike, and I do that often with my older daughter, Alexis, who's 11. And so we need to transition into this world, but it has to be something that we have to push. Miami is not that way, so we have to teach people by action, and we have to make it easy for them. But I think that's an excellent question, and I'm with you. Let's plant more trees. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz Jimenez. Mr. Hack?
To combat the air pollution in Miami, last year Coral Gables declared a climate emergency, but we need to be following through with that climate emergency, and there's a lot of plans, a carbon tax for our businesses in Miracle Mile so that it creates an incentive for them to be more eco-friendly. I agree with Ms. Cruz Jimenez that we need to be expanding public transportation and move our residences away from fossil fuel cars until we can get to electric vehicles. Ideally, I would like to see the trolley be 100% electric. If we're to make our public transportation eco-friendly, then we can start there. If we can have it for the freebie, we can certainly have it for the trolley. I'm also a big proponent in nature, and yes, I also would love to see more trees in the Coral Gables area.
Excellent, thank you very much. Ms. Jolie?
Thank you for bringing that up. But you see, Coral Gables is full of beautiful oak trees and the canopies that they embrace our streets. So we don't need more trees in Coral Gables, but I tell you where we need an arboretum. It's in the same place where they want to put the Batwa gas station. We will have a beautiful arboretum in which we will be in contact with nature. We will be breathing pure air. And more so, since we're gonna have electric cars when you are older, we don't need gasoline. Therefore, you brought it into the table, the solution for the VAWA across the street from Carver. We don't need it. We resolved it. Thank you very much, because now all we need is to wait until we have more electric cars, so we don't have to come up with any solutions for the VAWA, because the VAWA is not going to exist. Thank you. You see, you should be in a couple of years running for commissioner.
I love it. Of the future. Thank you, Ms. Jolie. Ms. Miro?
Thank you. So I also love that we have a beautiful, lush tree canopy here in Coral Gables, and I am all for continuing to plant and create more of those beautiful canopies in any other areas, not only to create shade, but to create beauty and continue to live up to our name of the city beautiful. And as far as helping the air quality, the trees will definitely help with that. But I think that anything that we can do to provide incentives to reduce our carbon footprint, whether that is with our transportation system or for individuals who are trying to move towards that electric, make it easier for them, provide more plugs, more charging stations throughout the city to show our residents that we're not just talking the talk, but we're walking the talk, and we're actually helping them by creating these opportunities and continue to create and propose legislation that is going to move towards a more green initiatives. So definitely anything that we can do to contribute to that, I'm in favor of. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miro. Mr. Valdez-Fali?
Yes, everyone on air pollution is concentrating on the electric cars and making electric cars, but we have a lot more pollution than, we have the buses, we have the garbage trucks, we have all these service, the recycling trucks all running through our city, creating a tremendous amount of air pollution. And I'm not even going to talk about the blowers that are going on, in the gas blowers that the gardeners use in the streets. During COVID, I tried to talk to the commission about, the garbage, the blowers going on and hitting the postmen and all that air pollution going on that could have been spreading COVID. I didn't get anywhere. But I do think that it's not just, the electric cars is one component, but we have all these other issues going on.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Valdez-Fali. I want to thank this first group. What a wonderful job you did in providing us some informative and engaging information. Thank you for your time. I hope you'll hang out with us as we go into the last section and do the audience Q&A, but thank you for your time and your effort during this section. We're going to now proceed to group 3 of the Coral Gables Commission, and I want to introduce them in alphabetical order. We have Mr. Javier Baños.
Pleasure.
Mr. Alex Bucello.
Good evening, everybody.
Mr. Kirk Menendez. And Philip P.J. Mitchell is not here, correct?
Correct.
All right. Just so everybody knows, Mr. Mitchell was invited, but is not in attendance this evening. So we'll start off with our first question for the group 3 candidates. And we're going to start off again with a question from student. This is Virginia Gonzalo Falzone, an 8th grader at Ponce Middle School.
That's great.
Virginia, are you on? Virginia, are you on?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, I can
Okay.
hear you. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So for the candidates who have children, what schools do they attend, or what schools have they attended or will they attend? And how would you encourage or attract more Coral Gables families to send their children to Ponce de Leon Middle School and Coral Gables Senior High School?
Thank you for the question. We're going to start with Mr. Baños.
Well, thank you very much, and that is a wonderful question. By the way, no respect to anyone. I was having some technical difficulties at the very beginning, that you know better than to use my wife's computer. This just hurts to have. Look, I'm the only candidate in this particular group that has school-age children. I have a daughter who is 10 years of age, and I have a son who's 6 years of age. They do attend Santa Teresa Catholic schools. I picked Santa Teresa Catholic schools because as a young child and under Castro, I was deprived of having a Catholic education. And I believed it was essential for my children to have that the Catholic foundation. Even though that's a personal choice, I am the product of a public education. My entire life, this country has given me an incredible education, all of it from high school to going to FIU to receive my accounting degree as a CPA, and then subsequently to the University of Florida, where I received my law degree. All was in public education. I believe public education is a backbone of our country. It is a way in which we improve and we move forward. And I am a prime example of someone who has been successful as a byproduct of what this great gift is. I think in Coral Gables, we need to invest in our schools, and we need to invest in and create a partnership with the currently instituted board to provide.
Thank you, Mr. Bucello.
Thank you. And that was an incredible question. I myself don't have kids who attend any schools, but I myself did attend St. Teresa as a young child all the way up to middle school. So I do have the pleasure of going to school here in Coral Gables and know what it's like to go in school in Coral Gables. I have plenty of friends. Some of my closest friends did attend Coral Gables High School. So I'm very familiar with their programs and how they work. But the main question here is how do we promote families to use public schools here in Coral Gables? And I think it starts with a partnership. I think we need to start working with the school board, the teachers, the residents, and the parents that have children going to these schools. It all starts with transparency and working alongside and working together. I think once we do that, the rest kind of falls into place. So I think those are the most important aspects in how to encourage kids to start coming here to school and have the highest quality of school, which I think Coral Gables has some of the best public schools here in the county. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Menendez?
Yes, Virginia, thank you for the question. I went to Coral Gables Senior High School. I graduated class of 1980. Some of my best and lifelong friends I met there while being a Cavalier and playing on the soccer team. My kids, like Mr. Baños and Mr. Bucello, my kids went to St. Teresa School. I chose that school as well because of the need to have that kind of faith base in the lives of my family as a foundation. I went to FIU afterwards. My daughter just started college, and my son is a junior in high school. I think what we need to do, work together, the city, the commission, with the public schools in our city, to form a team, a partnership, so that there's more of a tie-in, more of a buy-in by our residents. We have to see it as, we have to build those schools to make it the best schools possible, so that we have, so that's no longer an option to go anywhere else. We want to help you have the best.
Thank you, Mr. Menendez. The next question, again, I'm going to have a student. This is Frank Gonzalo Falzone. He's an 8th grader at Ponce Middle School. Frank, are you on?
Yes. Hi.
The
Hi to
floor is yours.
everyone.
Hi.
Thank you. Exhaust from cars is toxic to our community. Do you support the use of electric vehicles in Coral Gables? And if so, how will you promote their use?
And we'll start with Mr. Menendez.
Yes. The city's already started transitioning into electric vehicles earlier in the group too, and it's been discussed. There's this freebie ride, which covers a small radius and helps people move from one point of the city to the other. It's a small radius. Something that's being discussed, something that I support, is expanding the radius of this freebie ride, so people no longer, let's say on a weekend, need to jump in the car to go to the grocery store or to go to dinner. This electric vehicle will pick you up at your home and get you from one point of the city to the other point of the city. With such a city beautiful, we really shouldn't have to be using our cars. We should be biking, we should be walking, and we should use the electric transportation that's available to us, but we should expand that so that everyone can ride in electric vehicles and no longer have to depend on gas-based vehicles.
Thank you, Mr. Menendez. Mr. Bucello?
Yes, and again, another fantastic question. I think, and I absolutely support the use of electric vehicles. I think it's something that is it's needed. It's something. It's a generational move. I think we're looking at this, and you talking to the residents. One of the main issues is environmental resiliency, because quite frankly, it's affecting our generation, and even more importantly, the generations to come. So I think in regards to electric vehicles, I'm a big advocate for the freebie. I think that's something that needs to be extended. Mr. Menendez touched up on it. I think it's something that has to expand into our residential areas, because our residents don't want to drive in a car. If they want to go to the downtown, they rather use the freebie. Where every time, and I've said it in every home I knock, and every time we don't have to turn on a gas or motor vehicle, it's a positive. And another thing that is, I think, of the utmost importance is the infrastructure in new buildings and new commercial properties, the infrastructure to have electric charging stations. I think that's something that's going to be a must, especially in the future where most manufacturers are leaning towards electric vehicles. So that is one of to me, the biggest issues here in Corvallis.
Thank you. Mr. Baños?
I'm the only candidate, well, of the two candidates that own a home, I'm the only candidate that has put a 36 solar panels on his home. I have not just talked a talk, but I have walked a walk. And I believe with the leadership of Vice Mayor Lago, that he has shown over the past 8 years, I think it's essential that we transition into a complete fleet of all vehicles in the city of Coral Gables to be electric. I think if we declare a climate emergency, we should do something about it. I think we should set a particular goal, even for all large vehicles such as garbage vehicles, trucks. I think the technology will be there in 10 years for those trucks to all be electric trucks. I think we should budget for that. We should make that a goal, and we should do something definite. Every single time there is, it takes a more global perspective, but for us, every single time we have new construction, any new permit should require that we have solar panels in those buildings, or at least a portion of it should be on those homes to require to have solar panels, so that we promote the use of alternative energy and we wean ourselves of fossil fuels, which are so toxic to our environment and to the future of our children.
Thank you. The next question, we'll start with Mr. Bucello. The next question is, what is your number one priority for education if elected while you're in office? And why is this the most important point to you, and what is your plan to achieve it?
That's a great question, and I think we've been talking about it all night. I think it starts with a number of things, really. It starts with transparency. It starts with infrastructure. We talked about development, how that might affect our schools. I think it absolutely will affect our schools. I think we need to look, when we look at, that's why one of my biggest platforms is smart and controlled development. When we look at development, there's a lot of things that stem off development, one of them being schooling. So I think we have to start looking at development, look at the infrastructure, making sure that there's always a seat. And I think one of the other candidates said it, there's always a seat at a table for a child in schooling. And then another thing is transparency. We need to have, and I go back to it, the partnership between the school board, the teachers. Not even if you're not if you're a student and you're not a resident of Coral Gables, you still need to have a voice and a platform. So I think the partnership between schooling, transparency is the utmost importance, as well as infrastructure moving forward.
Perfect, thank you. Mr. Baños? Yes,
Look, in order to be able to support our schools and truly not have overcrowding and we have a truly wonderful learning environment for our children, so that we can attract more folks to come into public schools. We have to understand that we can build this massive high rises and invite all this density and all this amount of traffic and congestion in our city without taking into account of the broader infrastructural needs that will require. Concurrency is a real issue, and I believe that debate needs to be restarted, and I will be one of the leaders to actually go back and figure out whether or not we're making the proper steps in order to be able to build these structures, having the proper schools, the amount of firefighters, the amount of police, the amount of service providers to attend to it. I think it's a transparency issue, but it's also a leadership for the future. We can't do things, without thinking about what it would require to service all those structures. And Commissioner Baños will definitely take that into consideration. I'll be far more cautious in the way we approve these massive structures that don't have that scale in the neighborhood.
Thank you. Mr. Menendez?
Yes, I coached at the Coral Gables Youth Center for over 25 years. I'm the president of the board since 1992. I grew up there. The city offers so many resources for children, and having a mentor is key, I think, in the life of any child. A young man who's a freshman at Gables High, Naki Baranechea, I met him recently at a local coffee shop. He told me he was interested in government, so I invited him last week to the UM forum for the candidates. I think we should create a mentorship program for our young people so that they can see more than just the four walls of their home and just the four walls of their classroom. It's important for kids to see a vision of the future and to understand how government and how life works outside their radius. So I think we should have a mentorship program, not only with commissioners, but with the administration, and give kids a view, because I know so many kids, especially at Gables High. I'm trying to help right now get into college with scholarships based on academics and athletics. But a lot of them have a limited view of what the world offers. And I think we as a government, through a mentorship program, can really help kids move forward and have a vision of their own future.
Thank you. This next question, and we'll start with Mr. Baños. If elected, will you facilitate dialogue between G.W. Carver Elementary School and Wawa so that adjustments to the architectural plans can be made in order to preserve decades-old oak trees, protect the sidewalks, crosswalk, and reduce dangerous and polluting traffic in front of the school? And do you agree that a gas station in front of a school is a suboptimal result that never should have happened?
Suboptimal is an understatement. It's a travesty that this was allowed to exist. I have been very vocal during commission meetings. I have supported all the Carver parents in all their efforts to try to stop this building from continuing. I believe a dialogue is essential, and I think Commissioner Baños and a future commission should be able to bring the parties together. The parents' main concern is that they were not included in any discussion. The settlement specifically says that we're not going to allow public input, that we're simply going to go ahead and write a blank check to whatever Wawa and the developer wants to do in the project. That is not a way to have a democracy. That is a completely horrible result that we have received. And I think it was a well-intentioned process to begin with. It has been usurped. It has been, at this point in time, overtaken by the developer process. I think we should start from the beginning. I think we should go back and change the original resolution, retake it back, and request that this settlement be undone. And we can start from the beginning, bring the folks in, have a dialogue, and make sure that all the concerns that the Carver parents have are addressed and they're heard by Wawa.
Thank you, Mr. Baños. Mr. Bucello?
Another great question. I think now that the Wawa is there, I think the partnership is absolutely necessary. I think a dialogue between both the school, Carver, Wawa, residents of that neighborhood, and the commission is of the utmost importance. I think when we look at partnership, and I keep on saying partnership because I think when everyone works together, we're able to solve issues. Together is easier than solving it by themselves. So when we look at the Carver, I think the most important thing there, when you mention sidewalks, crosswalks, is the safety of the children that are attending that school. And I think as commission and as the Wawa and as the school board and so on and so forth, when we work together, we can solve these issues. And again, safety is by far the most important thing here when we're discussing. So I think these are issues that have to be addressed and have to be addressed immediately. And I'll do so as commissioner. Thank you.
And Mr. Menendez?
Yes, unfortunately, this isn't the first time that there's a gas station near one of our local public schools. For decades, in front of Coral Gables Elementary, not Coral Gables Preparatory, there was Sinclair gas station in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. it's the worst possible scenario. And hopefully this will be the last time we encounter this situation. I would help lead the charge to build that bridge between the teachers, the parents, the administration with the Wawa. Safety is first. I worked very hard to help a local kindergarten school for about a year dealing with accounting to add school speed zones, and they refused. I brought city officials, county officials to the table, and finally the Dade County division in charge of speed zones added one. I've been fighting local government. I've been fighting private industry to help the safety, enhance the safety of children. So I think, yes, we need to build bridges. Instead of dividing us, we need to find a way to come together to find solutions, not for us, but for these children. Safety first.
Thank you very much. All right, last question for this group. The mayor, the current mayor established an innovation council, which eventually brought the idea for having all of our city schools STEM designated in an effort to hopefully recruit the hemispheric STEM conference to our city beautiful. If elected, what would you do to continue, if you think it's worthy, that STEM effort to get all of our schools highly STEM designated? Let's start with Mr. Bucello.
Again, I think this is the most important. It goes back to partnership. I think we have to work with our schools so they have the highest quality education for the students. I think, and again, attract the best professionals to come teach these students. And again, it goes to infrastructures. We're looking at the needs of students. They're ultimately changing. I had the pleasure of visiting Crystal Academy and seeing what they do there on a daily basis. And these needs are forever evolving. And I think it's time we address these issues. I think prior administration has done a great job, and I think we need to continue to work with them, work with the schools, and I keep on going back to the partnership because it's very important. I think we all need to work together and continue to make the quality of schooling here in Coral Gables even better than what it already is, promote public schooling, and make sure our kids are getting the utmost education that's afforded to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Baños?
Yes, I think funding is essential. The city can do some of that, but I think bringing in civil society, bringing in charitable organizations to assist in promoting the STEM, as well as looking at the resources of our own residents. We have one of the premier locations in all of South Florida. I think we have one of the most educated and professional group of residents and citizens in Coral Gables. And I think creating mentorship programs so that the STEM, STEM science, math, biology become the main or the fundamental subjects that are taught in these places by the very residents who live in Coral Gables, and we can create a situation where children can go to this folks and be taught and be tutored in these subjects. I think it's the best way that we can involve our residents and be true leaders in this process, so that this vision of the Mayor of Valdez Fowley had can be truly achieved, not only with city resources, but with the assistance of all the residents of Coral Gables, which are, once more, are the premier place in South Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Baños. And Mr. Menendez?
I enjoy the history of Coral Gables, and for decades we've been promoting the city as a global city. And to be able to be a global city, you need the best education for our children. That it starts there. And I think we should not only help move resources in that direction, but we should, as a city, promote and market getting the best education and promoting the STEM program. We have multinational companies here that are in all types of industry in the sciences, like Mass Tech. Their reach around the world is amazing. We can bring in corporations like that be willing to be partners with our school. I think the city has camps of all types for children. At the youth center, I help promote scholarships, low-income children to attend summer camps at the youth center. We should have those types of STEM type of programs that are not athletic based, but are educational based. So I think as a community, we should come in together and make this a reality.
Thank you very much. Wow, the time has flown, and you candidates, you've done so well. Thank you again for being informative and engaging. I appreciate you, and I hope you can stick around as the final round when we do audience Q&A. I want to move on to the final group, our candidates for Coral Gables Mayor. We have with us this evening Pat Keon, Vince Lago,
Thank you for having me.
Rip Holmes. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight. Like with our other categories, I want to start off with a question from a student. I think Nadia Palace. Nadia Palace is an 11th grader at Coral Gables Senior High. Nadia, are you there? Natalia, I'm sorry. Natalia. My apologies. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Okay, so my question is, what environmental policy will you enact to make Coral Gables a cleaner and greener city?
And we'll start with Pat Keon.
You know, I didn't hear, she broke up at the very end of her question.
Not a problem. I'll read it out again.
Would we have to do what?
What environmental policies will you enact to make Coral Gables a cleaner and greener city?
Oh, you know, I think that, I think we currently are. We just passed a fertilizer ordinance that will reduce the nutrient load in our waterways and eventually the bay, so that our grass beds will reestablish themselves and we won't have the algae blooms that we currently experience as we decrease that nutrient load. I think we are a tree city. We have over 40,000 trees in this city, so which is a wonderful opportunity for that exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen within the city. You know, there's always more, and sometimes the younger people within our community can always suggest things to us. So I certainly would welcome any other ideas that you have.
Thank you. Mr. Lago?
Hey, Natalia, thank you for your question. It's great. You know, this is something that's very near and dear to my heart. I think that a lot of politicians or aspiring politicians, what they do is they talk a lot about what they're going to do. So I want to tell you a little bit about what I've done. So I drive a 100% fully electric vehicle, and my house runs 100% on solar. I've written basically, if not all, most of the legislation that deals in this community, and I'm happy that my colleagues on the commission have supported me when it deals with environmental stewardship. Everything from passing solar ordinances to ensuring that you don't pay for permits, park ordinances where we're buying private pieces of land and making them parks, LEED ordinances to make sure that every building is LEED, energy efficient and water sustainable. But I think that we can do better. I think we can do better. And I think what we need to do is work on a piece of legislation that I wrote, which I think most of the aspiring elected officials here have talked about. And that is about making sure that every building has the proper capacity for electric vehicles. I wrote a piece of legislation that was pared back significantly, but I think that we should have more than 2% of the availability for cars who are interested in having a 100% electric vehicle. So that's what I would work on with my colleagues on the commission. Thank you.
Mr. Lago. Mr. Jackson Rip Holmes?
Okay, so Ms. Palace, thank you for your question. I went to Gables High too, and I think it's a really great question. And unfortunately, you know, we have to be concerned about sea level rise, and we have parts of Coral Gables that are on Biscayne Bay. It's predicted that Miami Beach will be mostly underwater by 2060. So we got to really take this extremely seriously. I'm really grateful to you for your question. I lucked out and got to know former Governor Charlie Crist. He has a radical idea which you may find intriguing. He said that, you know, if we look at the space program, fuel cell technology invented by NASA for our space program is possibly the answer for cleaning up our environment, because it produces zero carbon dioxide. And we have the lead worldwide because NASA is based, you know, here in Florida at Cape Canaveral. So he said we need to create the infrastructure. We need to sell the world liquid hydrogen fuel cell technology and replace Saudi Arabia and become the richest place on earth. What do you think about that? Secondly, because of the danger of sea level rise, I think we need to get the Dutch in. You know, the Dutch are the boy with the finger in the dike. They can help us build a seawall if we need to against.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes.
Being drowned.
Appreciate it. Next question, and this is from a student. I don't believe that she's here. Rachel Del Pico. I think she had to leave early, so I will read the question.
Hi, I'm here.
Oh, Rachel, you're here. The floor is yours.
Hi, my question is, how will you respond to concerned parents and citizens regarding the plan for a Wawa gas station to be built across from GW Carver Elementary? And how will the city of Coral Gables ensure that the historic district is preserved and prevent damage due to increased traffic in the areas, as well as dangerous chemicals children may be exposed to?
And we'll start with Mr. Lago.
Rachel, that's a great question. It's a little loaded question, so it's for 1 minute, it's going to be tough. But I just want to make you aware that in 2003, this is when this whole discussion commenced in regards to the Lola B. Walker. And then in 2008, there was on March 25th, there was actually a zoning change, which took that piece of property from residential to commercial. We didn't get into the office, myself or Commissioner Keon, until 2014. So that zoning change happened before our time. What I would do right now is what I'm doing. I'm working with Commissioner Regalado of the county, along with our city manager and our city attorney, trying to find a solution to save those 5 trees, trying to do something in regards to relocating them. I had a conversation and I met with the attorney for Wawa this past week, and we're trying to find a way at a minimum to see how we can relocate those trees. And as a matter of fact, they just submitted to us their tree plan and what they're going to be doing in regards to saving, relocating certain trees that are on the property and an expansion of the canopy. I've been working with the Lola B. Walker's Homeowner Association for years now, trying to do a litany of different projects and actually achieving projects, but I don't want to go over my time. I want to respect my colleagues. So maybe I'll bring up some of the other points in the next half hour or so.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lago. Mr. Holmes?
So, Ms. Dopico, you asked the question of the night. I'm really thrilled that you as a student at Carver, I think, in my opinion, have asked the most important question that's been asked tonight. And so let me start out by saying, I think that the Wawa thing is bad. I support the lawsuit against it. I think we can do better. If nothing else, we do nothing, right? There's a thing in government called land banking. The idea of bringing that in, I had a stepson in Carver. He was eligible to go to Ponce. He only went there for overflow. And I got to tell you, I know that Carver has really excellent education and excellent students like you, and you deserve better safety than has been provided by this city commission, even by my opponents. We need to change the game here. We need to replace Wawa with something that is helpful to students, some kind of learning center. And you asked the best question of the night.
Thank you very much, Mr. Holmes. Ms. Keon?
The Wawa project is most likely to go forward. And I think that we need to understand how highly regulated gas stations are by the Environmental Protection Agency and locally by Durham. Is that all of the tanks are double lined, all of the hoses are double lined, so that it is very unlikely that there will be fumes or anything toxic in the area that will affect the school across the street. So I don't think that should not be an issue. I know it's a concern, but I think they're highly enough regulated that it will not hurt you. I think with regard to the crosswalk and those things, those are all issues that we can work with Miami-Dade County on as this project goes forward, as to where those crosswalks are placed. The manager already issued an administrative order with regard to the trees. The trees are at the entrances and exits to where they for the project. Those trees will likely be cut down, but they have offered a very large mitigation
Thank you, Ms. Keon.
that will replace those trees in other parts of that neighborhood and in that area.
Thank you, Ms. Keon. Next question. We're on a roll here. Let's go with Mark Snyder, who's an 11th grader, I believe at Coral Gables High School. Mark, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Go. The floor is yours, buddy.
Thank you so much for having me here. I wanted to ask, how will you make sure to keep the city's aesthetic and maintain the values of homes with all this new construction taking place in the city of Coral Gables?
Let's go with Mr. Holmes first.
Okay, so Mr. Snyder, great to meet you. And you too hit a home run with your question. I mean, should I say the second most important question of the night? And really, this is what motivates my candidacy, along with my concerns about Miracle Mile. I think that the City Commission is kind of caving into money from developers and leaving the rest of us behind. And I'm really, really concerned that this explosion of development is really bad for our city. It's bad for keeping our city beautiful. It's bad for, when you have a lot of urbanization, we've seen what the city of Miami looks like, tall buildings and urbanization and crime, right? Now, people aren't that safe downtown Miami. We don't want to go in that direction. And yet the City Commission, which is somewhat so heavily influenced by developer money, it's caved in, and I think it's going in a totally wrong direction. My candidacy is to stand up against developers controlling our city. We have to keep our city beautiful, and even more importantly, keep our city safe.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Ms. Keon?
The aesthetic of the city is largely regulated through our zoning code. So, and with regard to how that with the development in the downtown, along the June or any place where there's any development across from single family residential properties, you can only go up 45 feet, and then you have to step back 100 feet before it can go up further, so that you never loom over a residential neighborhood. As to the value of our homes, I think it is our proximity to the airport, it is our zoning, it is our board of architects that reviews every single project that comes to our city to ensure that it is of high quality and of a style that is most acceptable in Coral Gables. I think those things, they are what keeps the values of our home prices so strong. It's the airport, the ability of people to be able to not have to commute to downtown, that many people can live within a 15 to 20-minute commute into our downtown, which is a very, very good reason to live here.
Thank you, Ms. Keon. Mr. Lago?
Mark, thank you for your question. What I would do is I would continue to do what I'm doing right now, and that is continue to buy parks and to continue to make sure that we protect our tree canopy. I think everybody should have a park within 5 minutes of their home. We've done that over the last 4 or 5 years. We have my piece of legislation is raising a lot of money to make sure we can continue to buy these parks. I would also continue to vote against these massive projects that have been approved, and a lot of the upzonings that, like, for example, that happened on Miracle Mile and that happened on US 1, which I voted against, which were massive projects, which I think are out of scale with the city and devalue the city. And I also would continue to support, for example, the 25 miles an hour, which is the legislation that I wrote and I worked on for a long time with the county to make sure that people slow down, and the installation of traffic calming, which you're seeing start to happen in certain different parts of the city. And it's forcing the people that drive through our city to be kind, to be considerate, and to make sure that when they're driving through the city, they're not speeding and endangering our lives. So those are the things that I think are important right now to make sure we protect our values, our property values, and what's made this city so special. So thank you again for that great question, Mark. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Next question, and we'll start with Mr. Holmes with this one. Mayor Valdez-Fowley, when he came into office, set the goal of making Coral Gables Senior High School the #1 high school in the country, as it was in the 1960s. Do you support that goal? And how will you work as the new mayor to get to that, help make it #1?
Okay, so that's a really great question. Coral Gables is my alma mater, and it may have been during my lucky years there that we rose up to very high. I know we were the national football champions, and a lot of this unfortunately is beyond our control because the state legislature has a great deal of control. If, for instance, I mean, I'm not picking on the voucher system right now, but that kind of has taken a lot of money away from our public schools. My daughter has gone to a Catholic school, so I can see both sides of that issue, but I'm a little bit partial. I only went to public schools, and yet what could I promise here? Not much, because this is the state legislature that's doing this, right? I was lucky to get to know the principal at Gables High, and we just got to keep fighting, to be honest with you.
Thank you. Ms. Keon?
When I was elected in 2013, one of the issues that I was elected on was working with Miami-Dade County Public Schools on a variety of issues related to our public schools, because my children all went to the public schools and my grandchildren go to public schools. We have developed a very good relationship with Miami-Dade Public School, with Raquel Regalado when she was the prior school board member, and with Mary Terry Rojas now. Coral Gables High School, where the bond funds that were first allocated to Coral Gables High School were $12 million. I remember going to that meeting where Alberto Cavallo spoke about it and thought to myself, $12 million is a drop in the bucket for a school that was built in 1950 and has never been renovated since. And, through the work and working with community members that serve on different boards at the school system, on the superintendent's boards, with parents that have children in the school, with the students in the school, with the teachers in the school, we have gone from a $12 million allocation to over $40 million in the renovation of that school. Where they started, where they were going to just renovate a building, they tore it down, built a new wing. That school, within 2 years, will be a first-class city and will be one of the best high schools physically in this county. It is academically, it is an outstanding school, and its physical plant will meet its academic standards within a couple of years.
Thank you, Ms. Piña. Mr. Lago?
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. It's interesting because I had a very good relationship with the previous principal, but now the new principal is a lifelong friend, over 30 years, Principal Tony Olivari, and had the pleasure of meeting with him in the last 3 weeks, 2 times, one for coffee and one to tour the new facilities. But I also have a deep understanding of Miami-Dade County Public Schools because I've been working with them on the construction side and building schools. And my firm has done a lot of schools throughout Miami-Dade County. I take a lot of pride in being involved with educating and building these great facilities. So, the school's getting a complete makeover, and I've spoken to our school board member, and there's more coming. But I think what's really important is it's about having a relationship, and that relationship has to come from the top. And I have that relationship existing with the principal, and I'm going to continue to focus on that relationship and make sure that all our channels are open. And I'm going to refocus the School and Committee Relations Committee, which does a great job, and make sure that they're focusing on assisting Mr. Olivari, making sure that he has all the necessary tools and there's an open dialogue between the city and the school system, along with making sure that Coral Gables Senior High has everything they need from the city.
Thank you, Mr. Lago. Last question I want to give to, and I'm gonna hack this up. I'm sorry, Dioselin Oliva. I hope I said that right.
You said it right.
Did I say that right, Dioselin?
Yeah.
The floor is yours. She's an 11th grader at Coral Gables Senior High.
Great, thank you. So my question is, if elected, what would you advocate for that can be funded through federal money or state or county money throughout your term? Like, what would you advocate for? Any issues which can be funded through federal or any money given from outside the county?
Related to
and
school?
We'll start with, yes. And we'll start with Mr. Lago.
Did she say advocate or allocate? I'm sorry.
Here, let me read it here. If elected, what would you advocate for that could be funded through the American Rescue Plan, federal funds, or state and local funds?
Well, thank you, Ms. Oliva. That's a great question. You know, in 20, a few years ago, we had a horrific shooting at Parkland, and I appreciate my colleagues when I brought forth a resolution, was 2018-134, and that was calling for additional safety measures and making sure that our police officers were present at every single school. We were the first city to do that, and I take a lot of pride in bringing that forward because our children's safety is number one. I think that Maribel Rojas, who is an exceptional leader in this community, has done a wonderful job in making sure the funds are allocated for your school. But first and foremost, you're going to have a great school. But I want to make sure that it's safe and that people can go to school. And after 2 years, now you have those SRO officers full time. But the city of Coral Gables is present, as was approved by that resolution that I brought forth and my colleagues supporting me on the commission. So to me, there's nothing more than public safety. I want to make sure that you have that ability, that you feel comfortable, that you can learn every single day, that you're not in a situation where you're nervous because you may be encountering a situation that, again, is going to hinder you from learning. So first and foremost is public safety, and I hope the city will help you in every way.
Thank you. Ms. Keon?
The city, every legislative session, the city has a plan that we work with our lobbyists on with the legislature in Tallahassee on things that we would like funded for the city. But we also, the school system also sends us their plan, and we include our plan in their plan in support with us to also advocate on behalf of the Miami-Dade public school system for all of the things they need in order to provide the highest quality of education in Miami-Dade County that is possible. So I think it's an issue of a partnership, and it's working with the school system, to help them. And we have so many neighborhood community groups that are willing to work with and help our public schools. I just worked with the garden club, and we planted some mahogany trees outside. And I know there are the Friends of Gables High that are past alumni that are working to bring resources to the musical instruments to the school and to do those things. So I think at the state level, we work on it with our lobbyists. At the local level, we work on it with the groups of people that can provide other things that the school may need. Your school is so important to us.
Mr. Holmes?
Okay, so Ghislaine Oliva, I love your question. And I told you the other two, the first one had the best question, the second one had the second best question, and I'll say that you have possibly the toughest question, but you've turned my light on here. We now have, part of this problem has been that the state legislature wants to favor private schools, and they've gone, pardon me, with a voucher system that literally takes money out of the public schools to give to the private schools. But now with the new administration, you got me thinking. I'm really grateful to you, Ghislaine. You're smart. You get things going. With the new administration that we have, they're going to be more sympathetic, quite honestly, to the public schools. And they're going to be helping us with money. And so what we need to do on the city commission is really pay attention to what money is going to be coming available. I shouldn't say from the Biden administration, but you're a smart person, and that's where we can get some money. I really appreciate your question.
Thank you very much. Again, time flies. Candidates, you did a wonderful job, and thank you for being direct and providing us again with knowledge about so we can make the decisions we need to make. Now I'm going to move into the audience Q&A section. Anyone who would like to ask a question to the candidates or to a specific candidate can do so at this time. If you would put your questions in the Q&A section, I'll keep an eye out on questions coming in. I want to throw one out before I even go to the audience question, because we've had a lot of these submitted. And all of you candidates have talked about this, public service and getting folks more involved in their government. if the pandemic has done nothing, it has provided the electorate the opportunity to be more involved in their government and to learn more about how the sausage is made. I'm not sure we like sausage based on what we've seen, but we've gotten that vision. What will you do as a new public servant in the city of Coral Gables to increase public participation and to continue and increase where you can public participation in city beautiful government? Let's, if the panelists would do me a favor, raise your hands up. If you're Mr. Menendez, why don't you start out with that one?
Yes. Thank you. My whole life is, I lost my dad when I was 10. I grew up at the youth center thanks to the work of coaches and counselors of the city of Coral Gables, thanks to some of the legends of our city back in the day that helped build community. I am the person that I am today, the father that I am today. Public service is what Coral Gables has always been about. That's what's distinguished us from other cities and communities in South Florida, as I describe it. It's that legacy of service. And it's so important that we as adults pass along that legacy to the next generation and the generation after that. I mentioned earlier about a mentorship program, the young man from Gables High that I brought into the debate at UM or the forum the other day. He was left with his eyes open. He couldn't believe how we interacted as candidates to understand more about what government is about. I think as adults, we need to bring the kids in, find different ways, even if it's in private partner programs. We need the next generation to step in to our shoes so that we can carry on that legacy. They need to know what the future holds for them, and we hold the key to that future for these kids.
Thank you. Mr. Baños?
Yes, I make sure that my children, my 6-year-old, and especially my 9-year-old, who's quite adept at understanding history, and she loves it very much, is a firm participant of our daily life, of our public life. For over 15 years, I've served on various public boards, pensionary and civil service, and I think it's essential that in order to have the government we deserve, that we be true participants of that. So I take my children to vote with me. I take them to meetings. I try to speak with in schools to teach classrooms why it's important for them to be part of this entire process. And I think we as commissioners have to also be the leaders, and we also have to be the teachers. We will have a bully pulpit by virtue of being elected, and I think we should use it to bring the future generations into public service, so that we can prepare them to have the government that they serve. And I think that's essential in order to have.
Thank you
for the future. Thank you,
Mr. Baños. Mr. Lago?
Thank you. I think again, like most of the candidates said, I mean, we need to continue striving for as much public input as possible. My office, I think, is the benchmark when it talks about public engagement. I'm at City Hall every single day, and I take a lot of pride in that. We do town halls multiple times a year. We've been doing it for 7 years, and every Friday we do Open Door Friday. Anyone can come and visit me. Anybody, and many people on this forum have. We do it from 2 to 6 o'clock, and it's an opportunity for us to engage with the community, to listen, which is something that we fail at. Another thing that we do is another piece of legislation that I wrote is we ensure that every single commission meeting has 1 hour of open input from the community. That is important because that forces the commission, that forces government to listen to you. So when you're there and you want to have your voices heard, there's more than enough time. We also do a monthly newsletter, and also we listen and we write every single person back, and we return every single phone call within 24 hours. So what do we need to do? I think we need to find other ways to continue that engagement and push that platform across the city. And I think that we have more than enough resources to get it done. And I hope to work with my colleagues that get elected and my current colleagues to expand that network that we're working on.
Appreciate it. Mr. Hack? You there, Mr. Hack?
Oh,
there you go.
Whoops. Okay. As the election draws to a close and the candidates say their final statements, who I am and what I stand for is someone who listens and is cooperative. I think everyone here tonight recognizes the value of learning and paying attention to things that I assure you I will undertake as a commissioner. My platform is one for the community and seeks to tap into the raw talent of Coral Gables and provide the necessary infrastructure for our talent to thrive. We need to meet the challenges ahead together and effectively, and I will work to make Coral Gables a safe and welcoming place for families.
Thank you, Mr. Hack. Mr. Holmes.
Okay, well, I'm really, really grateful to you for this question because I'm afraid to say that we don't have control of City Hall anymore. The Citizens United Supreme Court decision allowed developers to make unlimited PAC contributions to elect the city officials they think are going to help them. I say, unfortunately, we have a government of the developers instead of a government of the people. And so my goal is to put the people back in charge. It's a hard fight. I need the votes and the support of the people in this audience. We're in a fight for our lives. I think that due in significant part to my opponents, the city commission has ended Coral Gables as a suburb. This zoning code rewrite has Coral Gables is on its way to becoming the city of Miami. The suburbs will be Pinecrest, Cutler Bay, and so on. We have to get this people back in control.
Ms. Keon.
Yeah, I have to give a shout out to Commissioner Forrest. When he was right after he was elected, he looked at in Miami Lakes, they did all of their meetings or Zoom was available to them for people to be able to watch the meetings remotely and to speak to issues on the commission. And he did it long before COVID struck. And so we had already started to do that. So as we migrated to that platform during COVID, it was already in place because, he saw that someplace else and he talked about it, and, our IT department was able to do it. So I think with IT, we will always be more transparent, more available, have the ability to have more and more public input as we go forward. And, so often it's when we see things, we've been doing it this way for so long, it takes, sometimes it's your eyes in the community that say, maybe you could do it a little better. Maybe you could do it this way. And I do think that we are in control in City Hall. I think every person that sits on that dais is there to serve the public and cares deeply, deeply about the well-being of the city. Thank
you. Ms. Jolie. Ms. Jolie, you there? All right. Don't see Ms. Jolie. Ms. Jolie?
Yes?
You're up. You had your hands raised?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can. Go right ahead.
Okay. I was gonna call Houston. Okay. I admire the vocabulary of everyone, how everyone thinks, the questions and all. What we have to remember is that when we get the position of commissioner, vice mayor, and mayor, who our bosses are and are the residents. And right now, we have to check how many lawsuits have been levied against the commissioners and the board that is representing the people. When I become a commissioner, I'd rather be sued by the developers than being sued by my people who are the residents of Coral Gables. We cannot fool anyone, people. The reason we are here, Mr. Holmes has been there forever. So he is a thorn in everybody's side because what he said, maybe he doesn't have the votes because there are more powerful people trying to get him off the running. And the best thing the commissioners can do is talk pretty to the people.
Thank you,
Don't
Ms.
talk
Lilly.
ready to the people. Tell them exactly what it is and why we as a commissioner are
Thank
being
you, Ms.
sued by
Lilly.
the people.
Thank you. Last but not least, Mr. Valdez Pauli.
I think one of the great things about tonight is that this forum was put on by the PTAs of our local schools, of our Coral Gables schools. And I think it's a mistake to lose sight that we're there to set an example for them and to try to teach the children about public service and how important it is, and to give back and to learn to give back, and how fortunate we all are, and that we shouldn't lose sight that this was put on by the PTAs and concentrate on the children of our schools. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a wonderful note to end on. I do want to say thank you to the PTAs, PTSAs.
Can we also speak as well? Hi.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Ms.
my
Muro.
colleague Rhonda Anderson and Tanya Cruz Jimenez and myself have had our hands
Oh, you
up.
guys, give me 1 second and I'll get you guys up.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Forgot about us.
I didn't see your hands up there.
Yeah, we added our chats as well.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let's start with Ms. Anderson.
Hello. The question dealt with how we're going to involve the community, the children.
Yeah, keep them involved and increase if we can.
Increase if we can. For 16 years, I've been working with my neighbors on every single project that I took on. We brainstorm ideas, we share ideas. I intend to keep that up when I'm elected. I will have meetings with people individually on a weekly basis and group sessions for brainstorming purposes to solve some of the big problems that we have with development and so forth, because we have one of the critical problems with our development is the bonus programs. And we need to take a serious look at the bonus programs and determine what it is that we want to promote. And the school, the children that are here today, I know have wonderful ideas that they can contribute, and I would like to hear from them.
Thank you very much, Ms. Anderson. Ms. Muro?
Thank you. So to answer the question, I have for a long time been saying that transparency is one of the main things that I am focusing my campaign on. I think that a lot of the concerns that our residents have come from the lack of transparency. So to solve that issue, one of the things that I have said before that I would propose is alternate commission schedules, so that those of us who, like me, I'm a working single mom, want to participate or have other daytime commitments, including kids, if they want to go, if they're in school, they can't come and participate in the process and see how our meetings go. I think we should have those important meetings held at alternate times. And to add to that transparency, I have also said, if we want people to keep coming out, if they don't understand what's going on at our meetings, they're not going to want to come out. So I moved to remove the use of acronyms at public meetings so that, mom and pop and the children at home can understand at least to some level, what it is that is going on, what it is that we're talking about, and more importantly, how is it going to affect them? So transparency is a big issue, and I think that it's what's going to help get more people involved if they know that they have access to come to our meetings. And I commend Mr. Lago for keeping those office hours. These are paid positions, and I believe that we should spend some more time in the office being available to the residents so that they can come voice their concerns and that we can help them. And having 25 years in public sector experience, I have that experience of helping the public. I know how to get the job done. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cruz Jimenez?
I think I'm the only candidate. I don't know if Ms. Jimenez went.
I see her. Ms. Jimenez, are you on?
If you want, I can step in. While
Please unmute.
Okay.
There you
so
are.
We're at an inflection point right now. We have faced a number of issues in this past year that were completely unprecedented. So we need to rethink the way that we do everything. In my travails of canvassing and talking to voters, I have heard a number of things, including recommendations. We need to talk to the parents. we need to engage. We need to do a better job. We need to make sure that another debacle like what happened with Wawa never happens again, that our school board is informed, that our principal is informed, that our schools are informed, that the parents are informed. But we cannot continue like this. If we are going to prosper as a community, as we continue to grow, we need to ensure that there is a partnership and we're working as a community.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Cruz. Mr. Busello?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. I've served the city now for a number of years, and in my time campaigning, I've come to talk to hundreds of residents. And quite frankly, one of the main issues that's on their mind is that of transparency, that of just wanting to be involved in the issues, involved in city government. And it's up there with traffic and development, which are other issues that press on their mind. But obviously, that's not an issue here today. What I will bring to the commission is somewhat like the prior administrations have done, is open door policy, and quite frankly, have the residents' input prior to an issue being in front of the commission, and really just have their voice be heard from the inception of an issue and throughout the process, so that, again, and it goes back to that teamwork partnership aspect, that we vote together, we come up with the solutions together as a team, because we're a representation of them. So, and with that, I thank you.
Thank you. Candidates, wonderful. You have given us plenty of information to chew on between now and April 13th. I want to thank the sponsors of this evening: Coral Gables Senior High PTSA, Ponce de Leon Middle School PTSA, and GW Carver Elementary School PTA, and Gables Insider. Many thanks to the candidates. We really appreciate you putting in the time and the effort and giving us some good answers. As a reminder, the elections are for 2 Coral Gables Commission seats, and for mayor, that election is on Tuesday, April 13th, voting day. Early voting takes place starting Saturday, April 10th, and Sunday, April 11th. I want to thank Wendy, who has been the host and helped provide me with all the information I needed to do this tonight. And thank you again, PTSAs and PTAs, for trusting me to do this and for putting this process together. Wendy, are we missing anything? Did I miss it? Forget anything?
No, I want to thank everyone so much, candidates, attendees, students, everyone. Thank you very much for your time. I've learned quite a lot tonight, and I apologize for the timeline. It was not what I had planned, and I take full responsibility for that. But I thank you all for your patience. I hope that you all learned as much as I did.
Thank you, everybody. Please go out and vote. Take 10 friends with you. We cannot have 26% of the people make the decisions for the future of the city beautiful. We need more people out there voting. Make sure your voice is heard. April 13th. Look forward to seeing you at the polls.